Today, we're undertaking a massive mission. It honestly sounds like a premise from the best kind of science fiction, but it's entirely real and it's unfolding right now across the Caribbean Sea.
Mhm.
We're talking about this unprecedented confluence of cutting-edge artificial intelligence, massive bioacoustic data sets, advanced robotics, and the deeply complex rhythmic world of whale communication.
Our focus is singular and I think monumental. It's about how technology is being leveraged, not just to understand what sperm whales are saying, but critically to fuel a radical and necessary transformation in conservation law.
And environmental ethics, do they?
Exactly. Aiming for nothing less than full legal rights for non-human animals. The mission really is to use AI to talk to whales, and in doing so, maybe save life on Earth.
That is an incredible scope. And our deep dive today is built from a truly diverse stack of sources. We're looking at dense academic papers on deep machine learning, neural networks.
Yeah, and then pioneering research in marine biology and these groundbreaking legal theories from groups like NYU's More Than Human Life program.
So we're connecting bioacoustics to existential environmental ethics. It's a huge undertaking.
And the central philosophical question that unites all of this material is really beautifully simple.
Right.
If we could truly listen, if we could parse their inner lives, their communication, their culture, and these complex social structures, would humanity finally be compelled to protect them?
And that's the bet, isn't it? Project CTI, the Cetacean Translation Initiative, operating off the coast of Dominica, is betting that absolute clarity will finally break through human indifference.
That's the hope.
So let's unpack this. And I think we have to start by setting the scene in the environment of the whale, because you really can't understand their communication without first understanding their unique sensory world.
You've hit on the most crucial point right away. The ocean is, it's fundamentally an acoustic world.
Not a visual one like ours.
Not at all. We rely on sight in the air. But for cetaceans, especially those that dive into the deep ocean trenches, light just vanishes. Sound is their lifeline.
Yeah.
It's all because of the staggering properties of water physics.
And those physics are just hard to grasp for those of us who live on land. I was looking at the sources, and they point out that sound travels approximately 1,000 times farther in water than light does.
1,000 times.
Not only farther, but it moves 4 times faster in water than it does in air. So a single sound can cover, hundreds or even thousands of kilometers?
It can. And this makes sound the absolute non-negotiable primary modality for their existence. They use it for everything. And you think about the sperm whale, which is the focus of CEE, they are acoustically so incredibly sophisticated.
Right, they produce these short broadband clicks.
Yes, generated using these really complex structures within their massive heads.
That spermaceti organ is just fascinating in itself. It's not just a big sack of oil, is it?
Oh, far from it. It's a specialized, multi-chambered sound generation system. The clicks aren't just simple pings. They're generated in what are called the phonic lips at the front of the head.
Okay.
And then they travel backward through the spermaceti organ and a channel called the distal sac. The sound is then reflected forward by another structure, the monkey lips, and then travels back out into the water.
So their own head is an echo chamber.
It's essentially a specialized echo chamber designed to focus and amplify sound. The entire internal sound path can be several meters long in a mature male, which is why their clicks have that distinctive multi-pulse structure.
So they're using this extremely loud, highly directional sound, not just for talking to each other, but for echolocation, to map out the dark environment, find prey, hunt giant squid in total blackness.
Exactly. Their entire life is built on a pristine acoustic environment.
And that's the problem.
That's the problem. Their ability to survive, to find mates, to coordinate hunts, to keep track of their family unit, it all depends on hearing. But we, as humans, have fundamentally and I think tragically destroyed that environment.
The sources use a very strong word. They refer to our activity as introducing a form of violence into the whale's environment.
It is a strong word, but I think it's accurate when you look at the effect of what we call the anthropogenic impact. The noise we generate is chronic. And it's severe.
I mean, just think about the global fleet of ships.
Over 100,000 commercial vessels traversing the oceans at any given time. Each one produces constant low-frequency noise. Imagine trying to have a conversation while standing next to a constantly running diesel engine.
And that's just the background hum. It's not even counting the high-intensity episodic sound events that are, they must be functionally deafening and physically painful.
Oh, they are. Seismic blasts from fossil fuel exploration, the air guns they use to map the seafloor, those are catastrophic events. They can be heard across entire ocean basins.
And military sonar.
military sonar, which is known to cause deep-diving cetaceans to panic, sometimes stranding themselves. And now, the growing threat of noise from deep-sea mining.
So what are the actual consequences of all this chronic noise? It must go beyond just interrupting their conversation.
The physical and biological consequences are devastating. They're cascading. Chronic noise exposure disorients the whales. It forces them away from their crucial feeding grounds, which leads to lower body weight, reproductive stress.
And physically, inside their bodies.
Biologically, the constant stress triggers a physiological response, flooding their bodies with stress hormones. And at the highest intensities, this noise can physically cause internal bleeding, permanent auditory damage, and even death.
Wow. The impact is so severe that the sources summarize it with the conclusion that is just. It's truly grim. It really sticks with you, they say. A deaf whale is a dead whale.
That is the reality of their sensory world. Sound is literally survival.
And this crisis, this indifference to the immense suffering we're inflicting through sound is exactly what catalyzed Project CETI.
It is. The founder, David Gruber, who's a marine biologist, he had this key moment of realization while he was studying coral reefs.
He saw a silent warning being sent, right?
That's a great way to put it. Gruber noticed that the corals he was studying were adapting their size and structure in ways that mirrored how their ancestors adapted 66 million years ago.
Just before the last great mass extinction event.
Exactly. He saw the coral, an animal without even a centralized nervous system, adapting to these looming environmental shifts.
So it was like a biological warning siren going off, but humans were just too preoccupied to hear it.
Precisely. His published findings on this went largely unnoticed by the public, and this cemented his conviction. The only way to break through human indifference, the only way to make humanity care, is to use the most cutting-edge technology AI, robotics, to expose the undeniable complexity and the inner lives of non-human species.
To break the silence.
To break that silence, not just so we can listen, but so we're forced to act.
Which brings us to the logistics. Before we can even dive into the language itself, we have to talk about the sheer technological and logistical nightmare of this whole endeavor. I mean, how does a team actually deploy and manage this massive technological pipeline in the deep ocean, tracking one of the largest animals on the planet?
It requires a profound fusion of skills. This isn't just a handful of biologists with simple hydrophones. Project CETI is a team of more than 50 experts.
50.
50.
Yeah.
Combining marine biology, AI, natural language processing, linguistics, cryptography, robotics, underwater acoustics. Each discipline is absolutely crucial.
Because the challenge is so multifaceted. And you mentioned the difficulty of translation. You can't just record clicks in isolation, right? You have to pair the acoustic data with verifiable behavioral context.
That's the key. You have to know who is clicking, when are they clicking, and what are they doing immediately before and after the sound.
So that requirement drives the need for this really sophisticated, non-invasive data acquisition. They need to be ghosts in the water, basically.
Yes, to minimize intrusion and observe natural, unstressed behavior.
So let's detail the hardware suite, because it really is straight out of a James Bond film, but, designed for science. What are they using for subsurface tracking?
The primary tool for that is a fleet of autonomous gliders. These are sleek, torpedo-shaped subsurface robots.
Okay.
They're equipped with a 4-element array of hydrophones,
Okay.
so underwater microphones. And they're not just passively listening. They have a custom AI-driven backseat driver capability.
The backseat driver, I love that terminology. What does that AI component let the glider do that a standard passive recorder can't?
It allows for real-time adaptive tracking. The AI processes the initial acoustic data. It estimates the whale's location and trajectory, and then shares that information with the team or with the other gliders.
So it's actively making decisions.
Crucially, yes. It allows the glider to take new commands based on that data, so it can track specific individuals, say a mother and a calf, continuously for hundreds of kilometers over days or weeks.
And that gives them the longitudinal data they need for any kind of linguistic study.
Exactly. They are actively following the conversation, not just hoping to stumble upon it.
And then above the water, they're using aerial drones.
Yes, to visually locate and assist. And these aren't just remote controlled, they're guided by the whale's own acoustic signals.
Wow.
The drones use the whale's echolocation clicks to pinpoint their exact location on the surface. And this high level of precision allows the team to perform this really gentle, non-invasive suction cup tag deployment.
So the tags just stick on for a while and fall off.
Right, they're bio-inspired, hydrodynamic, and they stream acoustic and movement data for up to 3 days before just harmlessly falling off.
And this is all supported by core whale listening stations, which give them a permanent acoustic baseline. This whole non-invasive philosophy, it seems absolutely key to building trust, or at least tolerance, from the whales.
It is the foundation of the project's ethics. And the success of this approach was, well, it was dramatically validated by an anecdote from the sources. This was in July 2023 in Dominica. The team actually witnessed a sperm whale calf being born.
That must have been an incredibly rare moment.
Beyond rare. Newborn sperm whale calves are incredibly fragile. They have low density, not much oil in their heads yet, and their flukes are folded, which means they can easily sink and drown if they're not assisted.
Oh, wow.
And the team observed 11 adult whales from the close-knit unit immediately surround the newborn. They coordinated their clicks and calls, constantly communicating.
Like a team of midwives.
Exactly. And they took turns in pairs to physically lift the fragile calf to the surface for hours until it was able to swim and breathe on its own.
That just sounds like a masterclass in cooperative behavior and a huge data point for social intelligence.
It is. And Gruber's reflection on it was profound. The whales allowed the CETI team to witness this highly vulnerable social moment because of the consistent, non-intrusive approach they had taken. That behavioral data, coupled with the acoustics they recorded, is just gold.
So this incredible data years of continuous recording cross-referenced with behavior then feeds into the next major hurdle, the scale problem. Why is AI so essential here? Why can't we just have marine biologists listen to the tapes?
It's the sheer impossible volume of data. We're talking about thousands of terabytes of continuous acoustic recording, manual annotation, a human listening to and logging every minute of sound. It would take centuries.
Right, so AI just automates the whole process.
It automates the detection, the classification, the segmentation.
Yeah.
It increases the pace of discovery exponentially.
But the environment is so hostile, it's not a quiet recording studio.
Far from it. And this is where the machine learning faces these immense detection challenges. The AI has to distinguish the structured, multi-pulse clicks of a sperm whale from relentless environmental transients.
And you're talking about ship cavitation noise reaching 180 decibels.
Which is like standing next to a jet engine. And then you have constant snapping shrimp noise in the background, which can hit 220 dB.
My mind is just blown by that. So, to be clear, the AI is essentially hearing a jet engine while trying to listen for a complex whisper, and it still manages to categorize sounds with high accuracy. That's almost filtering out reality itself.
That is precisely the challenge. And the early success of their initial deep machine learning tools is what validated the entire project. For general noise filtration and simple click detection, they achieved 99.5% accuracy.
99.5.
When categorizing 23 specific known click patterns, accuracy hit 97.5%. And most vital for their linguistic goal, they achieved 95.3% accuracy in recognizing specific whale dialects.
And that 95% accuracy on dialects, that validates the foundation. It means the building blocks of their sound system are reliably distinguishable by a computer, which then allows linguists to start hunting for syntax.
Absolutely. Now let's pivot to a fascinating case study in the sources, the humpback whale research, because it perfectly illustrates the immense complexity of fine-tuning these neural networks in real-world oceanic chaos.
Okay, this is where we get into the nuts and bolts of the AI itself. They used convolutional neural networks, or CNNs. For those less familiar, how should we, conceptualize a CNN in this context?
Think of a CNN as a specialized type of neural network that's particularly good at analyzing image-like data. In bioacoustics, we convert sound waves into a spectrogram.
Right, an image of the sound.
Exactly. Time is on the horizontal axis, frequency on the vertical. The whale sounds appear as distinct patterns or shapes in that image. The CNN autonomously learns the features of that shape. It doesn't rely on us telling it what to look for.
So they successfully trained this CNN on humpback song data from the North Pacific. But when they took that identical sophisticated model and applied it to the North Atlantic, the performance dropped significantly. Why?
It's the generalization problem in AI. The average precision dropped to 79% because the model couldn't generalize well. The noise environment in the North Atlantic is different, the dominant ships are different, and the regional song unit structures of the humpbacks themselves might vary slightly.
So the model was over-specialized.
It was overfit to the specific conditions of the North Pacific.
This required a huge effort in fine-tuning, and I have to admit, when I first read about the methods for data augmentation, time shift, noise augmentation, spic augment, my eyes kind of glazed over. Can you help us and me visualize what they were actually doing to the data to make the model smarter?
It's brilliant, actually, because they are intentionally breaking the data, so the model has to learn the core fundamental signal, rather than relying on accidental patterns. It forces the model to generalize.
Okay, let's start with time shift augmentation. How does artificially delaying the sound onset help?
Okay, so imagine you have a recording window of 5 seconds, and every single time the model hears a whale call, the onset of that call happens exactly 1 second into the window. The model, being lazy but efficient, might learn. If the sound starts at 1.0 seconds, it's a whale. Time shift augmentation randomly delays that sound onset. It might start at zero point 0.2 seconds or 3.5 seconds.
So you're forcing the model to focus on the acoustic structure of the call, its shape on the spectrogram, rather than any timing artifacts from the recording.
Precisely. It makes the recognition feature-dependent, not time-dependent.
Okay, next, noise augmentation. That seems self-explanatory, but how did they apply it intelligently?
It's crucial because the real world is messy. So researchers took a clean spectrogram of a whale call and combined it with a spectrogram of ambient noise, boat noise, snapping shrimp, whatever, and they adjusted the ratio.
So they're essentially exposing the AI to every worst-case scenario.
Yes. They might give it a crisp whale call overlaid with the sound of a nearby trawler, and then another version where the trawler is dominant. They're training the model not to mistake these common noises for whale clicks.
And finally, spic augment. Using time and frequency masking. This is the hardest one to picture.
Think of the spectrogram again as an image. Frequency masking randomly hides a vertical band. That's like ripping out the mid-range frequencies of the whale's call.
So the model is forced to recognize the call based only on the low and high frequencies that are left?
Exactly. It's training it to recognize the core identity of the call, even when part of its spectral information is missing.
And time masking.
Time masking hides a horizontal band. That simulates a brief, sharp interruption, maybe a wave breaking or a noise artifact. The model has to recognize the unit, even if it's briefly interrupted.
So by simulating all these real-world distortions and gaps, they increase the dataset size fivefold. What was the tangible result of all this intensive fine-tuning?
The result was the production of a highly reliable North Atlantic model built using an open-source framework called Decoding, and it achieved an impressive F-score of 0.96 on the daily presence level.
Let's clarify that metric because it sounds technical, an F-score. For a listener tracking the success of this, why does a score of 0.96 matter so much?
It matters because it's a measure of absolute reliability. Precision is when the model says, "That's a whale," how often is it right? Recall is when a whale click actually happens, how often does the model catch it?
Okay.
A score of 0.96 means that 96% of the time, the model is correct. It's a gold standard reliability metric. Confirming this tool can accurately analyze decades of archived data extremely quickly, transforming the pace of discovery.
From centuries to years.
Exactly.
Now that we have the validated technology, let's move to the analysis of the language itself. The foundational unit of sperm whale communication is what they call a coda.
Right, a rhythmic sequence of clicks called codas, which can range from, say, 3 to 40 clicks long.
Before CETI, researchers had identified about 150 codas worldwide. But Project CETI, just in the units they study, has already documented 156 distinct click patterns.
Which far exceeded expectations for complexity.
So what has the AI confirmed about the cultural and social use of these codas?
The AI analysis confirmed two fundamental concepts that are absolutely critical for the legal argument later on. The first is cultural transmission and the existence of dialects.
Dialects.
Yes, the AI confirmed that the coda patterns shift with conversational context, and most importantly, distinct dialects exist between social groups or clans.
So we're not talking about instinctual calls like an alarm shriek. We're talking about learned patterns that distinguish one social group from another, like the difference between someone from Boston and someone from London.
Precisely. This implies genuine social learning, not just genetic coding. It confirms this extraordinarily complex social structure. Stable, matrilineal societies built around grandmothers and mothers requiring high levels of coordination.
For things like group decisions on travel, communal defense.
Finding distant food sources, shared nursing responsibilities, all of it.
And the sources note parallels to human language development here, too.
Yes, they do. Calves are observed to babble, producing a wide range of clicks and codas for at least 2 years before they finally master the specific natal dialect of their unit.
That extended period of social rehearsal is a profound parallel to how human children learn language.
It is. Now, the second and much more challenging core finding is the search for syntax. The structure that proves the communication is more than just complex Morse code. This is the phonetic alphabet, or the vowel hypothesis.
And this is the breakthrough that's caused the most scientific excitement and debate.
It really is. Researchers went beyond just measuring rhythm and timing, focusing instead on the spectral patterns of the clicks themselves. And they discovered distinct qualities in the clicks that resemble human-like vowels.
Vowels.
Specifically the two vowel, like in father, and the I vowel, as in see, and even combinations that resemble diphthongs.
That is astonishing. It suggests the click isn't just a sharp impulse, it has tonal qualities within it, like a human speech sound.
Right. It relates back to that multi-pulse structure we discussed. The theory is that the whales are able to subtly adjust the timing or the intensity of these internal pulses, creating spectral peaks that function like the formant we use to distinguish vowels.
So the linguistic lead on the project is taking the position that whales produce these vowel-like patterns intentionally, and that they differentiate between them in dialogue even if we don't know the meaning yet.
That's the assertion, that intentional differentiation implies phonological complexity. If a whale changes the vowel quality of a click when addressing a different individual, it strongly suggests a structured phonetic alphabet.
But this is where we have to be rigorous. Wait, what about the counterarguments? The sources noted some marine biologists are pretty hesitant about this vowel hypothesis.
And that's a crucial nuance. Some highly respected marine biologists caution against premature anthropomorphism. They maintain that these newly recognized patterns might just be recording artifacts.
Like how the hydrophone picks up the sound.
Or they could be passive byproducts of the whale's physical state, its depth, its speed, its level of alertness. It could be physics, not intentional language.
So we have to hold both views at once. Cutting-edge analysis suggests language-like structure, while cautious biology reminds us not to project human expectations onto an alien intelligence.
Exactly. This debate is the very definition of the scientific rigor needed here. But regardless of the nature of those sounds, the ultimate goal is to prove the existence of syntax and intentional coordination.
So how are they trying to functionally prove that complexity?
They're turning to the large language model technology, the LLMs that power our chatbots, but custom built for cetaceans. This is the Whale-LM project.
Right, and Whale-LM is trained to learn the underlying patterns and dependencies in sequences of whale codas. Its main function is prediction, right?
Yes, to reliably predict what should come next in a sequence of calls, based on the context.
But wait, isn't there a risk that predicting the next call just proves predictability, not meaning? I mean, couldn't the LLM just be identifying a complex instinctual sequence like a bird's mating display, and we're just prematurely labeling that pattern as syntax?
That is an extremely important question, and it's one the researchers are actively grappling with. The key difference lies in the flexibility and variability they're seeing in the whale data.
So an instinctual sequence would be more rigid?
Highly rigid. What the CT team is looking for is evidence of combinatorial, rule-governed communication used in novel situations, especially during complex coordination events like hunting or that calf burst we discussed.
So if Whale-LM can predict a novel sequence of codas used to coordinate, say, a shift in diving strategy after an unexpected noise event, that goes beyond simple instinct.
It does. The sources state that the ability of Whale-LM to predict future behavior with high accuracy provides strong functional evidence that these codas are not random. They are part of a rule-governed system used for complex, flexible actions.
And that functional proof of coordination, that's the linchpin that connects all the science to the law.
That's the linchpin.
Which brings us to the so what section. This has to be massive. If this science succeeds in proving cetacean culture and syntax, what is the immediate, tangible connection to the law? And why does Project CETI need to proactively partner with legal experts now?
Historically, scientific understanding of a species' inner life has always been the catalyst for shifts in public opinion and, eventually, the law. We're trying to leverage that pattern.
You can go back to 1859, Darwin's On the Origin of Species.
Exactly. Sharing that truth, that humans evolved from common ancestors, was seen as threatening the entire legal and economic system that was built on human separation and domination over nature.
It dismantled the spiritual and legal basis for human superiority, forcing this slow legal reckoning.
And then a century later, in the 1970s, marine biologists released those recordings of humpback whale songs, those haunting, complex, otherworldly melodies.
That album was a cultural phenomenon. It connected people to whales on such an emotional level.
It had an extraordinary legal impact. It galvanized the first real international Save the Whales movement and led directly to critical protections, like the U.S. Marine Mammal Protection Act, and eventually a global moratorium on commercial whaling.
So the science provided the connection needed for legal action.
CEED aims to provide the next definitive, technologically undeniable leap. Not just that they sing, but that they speak and hold culture.
But there's still this massive philosophical barrier that the law struggles with, challenging anthropocentrism. The law often makes this fundamental error when assessing non-human intelligence, what's known as the language trap.
The language trap is our default setting. We commit an anthropocentric error by measuring cetacean intelligence only against the human benchmark, our language, our use of hands and tools.
We define intelligence based on what we do best and then judge everyone else for failing to meet that definition.
Right. A philosopher cited in the sources pointed out the absurdity of this. A dolphin might rightly conclude that humans don't swim unless they can spontaneously leap 15 feet out of the water.
It's a completely circular argument. They're ranked higher because they're more like us.
And the CEA findings fuel the counterargument. Intelligence is fundamentally species-specific. The immense, complex brain of a whale evolved in response to hydrodynamic pressures, and the need for complex acoustic coordination in a 3D environment where light is irrelevant.
They don't have hands.
They don't have hands, which some argue is intimately connected to the evolution of human speech. Their intelligence structure is profoundly different, but potentially just as complex, and it has to be recognized on its own terms.
So if the science proves they have culture and a language system, how are CEI and its legal partner, the MOTH collaboration, turning this into actual legal frameworks?
A MOTH More Than Human Life program at NYU is working proactively. Their goal is to translate the validated capacity and content of whale communication into specific, renewed legal protections.
So they're taking the AI evidence and using it to strengthen existing laws, like the Endangered Species Act, or what, catalyze entirely new rights.
That's a more ambitious goal, yes.
Yeah.
Catalyzing entirely new rights based on personhood.
But the technology itself introduces a huge risk. If CEA successfulully creates whale LM and we can functionally understand cetacean conversation, that knowledge could be weaponized.
That risk is existential. And MI4th recognizes that the law has to move faster than the technology. They're focusing on developing legal and ethical principles for NECT's, non-human animal communication technologies.
An ethical firewall.
An ethical firewall around the technology, exactly, to ensure it remains a tool for conservation, not for poaching, illegal whaling, or harmful mass tourism.
Okay, so let's discuss the specific legal consequences the AI data could galvanize. The sources propose two specific fundamental rights based directly on this evidence. The first is the right to be free from torture.
And this reframes the entire discussion around noise pollution. If AI can decode signatures in their voices that clearly signal suffering, stress, confusion, distress caused by acoustic overload, then human-generated noise pollution is immediately taken out of the category of simple environmental degradation.
It becomes a violation of a fundamental cognitive and physical right.
It shifts from a property crime to something analogous to a human rights violation. The legal concept of torture, in human cases, often includes sensory overload, like using deafening music to break a prisoner. For whales, human noise at 180 dB is described in the sources as the equivalent of shining a blinding light straight into a human's eyes, a form of torture.
And the AI data provides the empirical, unbiased proof of that suffering.
Right. And the second proposed right is the right to culture. What does the AI data contribute to that argument?
This one is fascinating.
The AI confirms that sperm whale society is rich with cultural traditions built on complex dialects, social bonds, learned foraging techniques, all passed down through generations across their 60 to 70-year lifespans.
And human activities are directly destroying that cultural inheritance, not just individual lives.
Exactly. Commercial fishing bycatch kills at least 300,000 whales and dolphins every year. That isn't just the death of an individual, it's the destruction of a knowledge bearer. When you kill an elderly matriarch, you are directly disrupting the transmission of knowledge, dialect, and language to the next 2 generations of her unit.
So protecting these traditions, their group identity, their social glue, that's the essence of their right to culture. And confirming that culture exists with rigorous science helps solidify the push for them to be recognized as legal persons.
And this entire legal perspective is deeply aligned with the indigenous precedent, which the sources highlight as critical to this whole movement.
The rights of nature movement, which is growing so quickly.
Right, in countries like Ecuador and New Zealand.
Yeah.
And critically, in New Zealand, Maori leaders already recognize Tohora, or whales, as legal persons, as ancestors, as older siblings. They've always viewed the ocean and the animals within it, not as resources, but as kin.
So this viewpoint, that personhood is an experience common to all forms of life, it aligns perfectly with the new scientific data.
It reinforces that traditional ecological knowledge and Western science can work together to save life on Earth. And this synergy isn't just theoretical philosophy. It yields practical results.
Right.
There are powerful examples of effective co-stewardship, collaboration between Maori elders and marine biologists, based on observing trauma markings during traditional whale stranding ceremonies, successfully led to changes in shipping routes to prevent future whale strikes.
So this whole endeavor, the massive technology, the linguistics, the legal framework, it's all designed to force humanity to recognize that the planet is not ours to dominate, but a shared home with other intelligent cultures.
The core takeaway, really, is that the journey to talk to whales is fundamentally a journey of human self-discovery. We're trying to transform our relationship with the biosphere, moving away from indifference by exposing our profound interconnections with it.
We've been operating for centuries with this anthropocentric worldview, seeing ourselves as separate, superior, the only bearers of true culture or language. But the legal theorists involved remind us that humans are embedded in the biosphere, entangled in the web of life that whales are also embedded in.
And you can think of it using that powerful house of cards analogy. The stability of the entire living world depends on each piece holding the rest up. The stability of our climate, the stability of the ocean, it depends on the whale. If we remove too many pieces, if we deafen them, destroy their culture, kill their knowledge bearers, the whole structure collapses.
So recognizing whale rights, their right to acoustic freedom, their right to culture, is an essential act of human self-preservation.
It secures the house in which we all live.
The success of Project CETI and the ethical rigor they're applying to preemptively create this legal framework, it shifts the burden entirely onto us. We can no longer claim ignorance about the complexity of life below the surface. We can't claim they're simply resources anymore.
And this leads us to the final, provocative thought, built directly from the sources we've examined today. We talked about the sperm whale calf birth in Dominica, where 11 adults coordinated to protect the fragile newborn. Scientists noted that the whales seemed to choose to share such a vulnerable, intimate moment with the non-invasive CETI team, trusting their observation.
So if the whales were able to choose to share that moment with us, what fundamental thing does that tell you about the nature of non-human intelligence? And what overwhelming responsibilities does that newfound, hard-earned trust impose on humanity?